there's no doubt he can not just do a job for France, he can shine at the World Cup. Now, in round 18 in France, it was highly entertaining. We had 32 goals at the weekend, including 3 from Lyon, who completed the double over Monaco. A 3-1 victory at the Stade Louis II means that Monaco boss Sébastien Pocagnoli has suffered 7 defeats in his last 8 league games. The Belgian is under a lot of pressure, and Monaco fans are calling for the head of sporting director Thiago Scuro. Unhappy times at the moment in the Principality. Monaco in mid-table. Also on Friday, Paris Saint-Germain defeated Lille 3-0, thanks notably to a couple of brilliant Ousmane Dembele goals. The second, it was just absolutely extraordinary. One of the best goals I think I've been lucky enough to commentate. I'm going to ask Tom and Baptiste what they thought. Personally, looking back at it, it reminded me of a very special goal I saw once at Highbury when Dennis Bergkamp against Bayer Leverkusen just sort of leant back a little bit and did this sort of golf shot. And that was a bit like Ousmane's chip, where he just like got incredible height, lobbed the goalkeeper. It was sensational. No, Tom, fan of that goal?
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I think particularly with the context of what a difficult season Dembele has had, the injury problems. That was only his 5th Ligue 1 start of the campaign, which is pretty remarkable. I mean, the first goal that he scored early on was really nicely taken and was sort of a glimpse of him at his best. But yeah, that second goal, it's so kind of delicate. The first part, where he does the 2 little feints just inside the area, reminded me of a very famous goal that Zinedine Zidane scored against Deportivo La Coruña in his first season at Madrid, where he kind of rolls it from foot to foot using the studs of his left foot and then his right foot, and then rockets in a shot. Similar build-up, obviously, rather than rocketing it in, Dembele lifts this perfect chip. And you think that there's no way he can get the ball high enough and get it to dip enough, because he's relatively close to goal for a chip like that. But, I mean, yeah, weighted to absolute perfection. A wonder goal.
Yeah, absolutely sensational. I think the best thing I love about Dembele is, to quote the 2018 French World Cup song, is you don't know whether he's left-footed or he's right-footed. He shoots with both feet. And the fact that he lobbed the keeper with his left foot both surprised me and didn't surprise me in a way, because he's just so talented and he's got magic in his feet. So glad to see him back on form, because he's been struggling a little bit with injuries, and he's always a delight to watch, especially over the last 2 years or so.
Yeah, it's obviously really, really important for PSG to have Dembele back at that level. And it was just one of those goals as well. You know, sometimes in a stadium where the noise is different, like to a goal, it wasn't a yeah or a wee. It was a like that, and the whole sort of stadium just rose as one, and the Ousmane Ballon d'Or song started, and it was quite the moment. But as I said in the intro, Lens are the top dogs still. Baptiste, they had a bit of pressure on them because they played the day after PSG, but they got the job done, didn't they, against Auxerre?
Yeah, tough game. Auxerre really started brightly in the first half, and they shouldn't be, where they are. I think Auxerre, they've got really talented players. They've got a good coach in Pélissier for that level, and I'm hoping they'll be safe. And then you just saw, kind of Lens inevitably get stronger as the game went on. And I think, Mamadou Sangaré coming back on and bringing some fresh legs and some ideas was vital. And they just keep going from strength to strength. And they're just great stories around Lens. I think that's why people really love what's going on. You look at the goal scorer, Wesley Saïd, he's 30. He's somebody who's been blighted with injuries all of his career. The talent's never really been in question, I think, when he was in the lower leagues, including at my club, Stade Lavallois, of course, little shout out. It was a sense of that guy's going to have numerous caps and is going to play for the big clubs, and it's never really, really happened. And he's showing it now. His goal was really well taken, and I just want to end just on the fact that another name that deserves recognition is Mathieu Udol. I think he tore his ACL 3 times. Yeah, I think in his career, and he's been by far the best left back in the country. This year, there's calls for him to maybe be part of Didier Deschamps' side for the World Cup. And when you look at his form, his crossing ability, his running, and at 29, it's just such a great story. And Lens just going from strength to strength under Pierre Sage, who is probably the most exciting manager in Ligue 1 at the moment, I think.
Yeah, Tom, just touching on Mathieu Udol and something that Pierre Sage said at the weekend. There was a big interview with him in L'Equipe, and he was just said some amazing things, I thought, about Udol. I haven't got the quotes in front of me, but yeah, just talking about his strength of character, how this guy just never gives up. And he basically said, there's no doubt he can not just do a job for France, he can shine at the World Cup. And that's one of Pierre Sage's sort of abilities, isn't it? To make his players feel so tall, so strong.
Completely. And I think Udol is the kind of player who used to get call-ups at international level. I think these days, players of his age with his backstory tend to be regarded with a degree of suspicion. Well, if you're that good, why were you still playing at Metz last season? How come you're 29? You've never been capped. Surely there's going to be someone more exciting coming up somewhere. We know that France have got a problem at left back. There are left backs that Didier Deschamps just hasn't ever fancied. Ferland Mendy at Real Madrid being one example. And you would think that if Udol can continue his form until the end of the season, he will definitely be in the conversation. As Baptiste said, the whole Lens thing is just such a great story. And I think to get one of their players in the World Cup squad, whatever they go on to achieve this season, would be a great kind of, coda to this campaign they're having. Obviously, Florian Thauvin has been recalled by France since he went to Lens. I guess he's probably still in with a shout, more or less. Yeah. But it'd be great to see someone like Mathieu Udol or Adrien Thomasson.
I was going to say Thomasson, yeah.
France are extremely well stocked in central midfield, but what a season he's having. One of the best box-to-box midfielders in the division, and has been for years.
Yeah, and he's got that creativity that maybe some of those other guys don't. But yeah, I think you're right. Didier Deschamps as well, he's quite conservative, but Jean-Philippe Mateta, he was called up at a ripe old age, so maybe there's hope for Thomasson, possibly not, maybe Udol. 10 wins in a row, by the way, for Lens in all competitions, 8 wins in a row in the league. Their next game at the weekend, away to Marseille. So, huge test. I think if they go and win there, people, they can't keep hiding behind the kind of like, no, we're just going to see how it goes. Of course, PSG will win the league. I think if they win in Marseille, they need to be taken very, very seriously. Lyon's defeat, by the way, at the Parc des Princes, it meant that Lyon had the chance to steal into the top 4. And Tom, that is exactly what they did, isn't it? By defeating Brest.
And thanks in no small part to Endrick, who we obviously spoke about in great depth on last week's pod. His home debut, his Ligue 1 debut. Lyon celebrating the 10th anniversary of the opening of the Groupama Stadium, so a bit of a party feel already. And he was electrifying. And it was a sort of cold, damp, slightly misty night. The kind of night where you're looking for an exciting performance to get you out of your seat, to warm you up, and that's exactly what he delivered. Set up the winning goal, as it proved, for Abner Vinicius. And there's a little highlights reel that I'm not sure whether it's the Ligue or Ligue 1 Plus have put on social media today, just kind of with all his best moments. And yeah, he was electrifying, playing in that kind of free right-sided role. And once again, Lyon playing with a midfield diamond with Pavel Schulk at its tip, who scored a lovely goal for Lyon's opener, and Afonso Moreira on the left-hand side. Loads of freedom for Endrick to move around, and a decent solid base behind him. And yeah, some of his dribbling, his ability to create space was really exciting. There was one moment in particular in the second half. Lyon were 2-0 up at this point. Brest ended up pulling a goal back, so it finished 2-1. Tanner Tessman makes a run down the inside right channel into the box, and Endrick plays this Lamine Yamal style outside of the left foot pass out from the right hand touchline into Tessman's pass. Obviously, it's Tanner Tessman, so he was never going to score. But the pass itself was exquisite and really exciting to have this young Brazilian superstar in the French league and already showing what a fantastic talent he is.
Yeah, Tom, we've got quite a lot of listeners in the United States. So I'm just going to say I was at the Groupama Stadium and I saw Tanner Tessman score. It was against Angers. He's capable of
He
doing
is
that.
capable. He's not renowned for his goal scoring, but he is capable of scoring goals, just for the record.
It's quite exciting, though, at the moment for Lyon. Obviously, Endrick coming in. We've got some good players coming back. Malik Fofana's not far away. They could be the team to sort of look out for in the second half of the season.
They have such a positive dynamic to them, and I think I'm really hot on that sort of thing. Everybody's pulling in the same direction at the club. I think there's also a sense of, Jesus Christ, we barely survived. The club barely survived the summer, and now this is all just kind of a fairy tale, and let's just keep it going. And you see that in a way that some players like Afonso Moreira, who was a complete unknown entity when he joined the club, 2 million from Portugal. And when Malik Fofana, got injured, there was a real worry that there would be no goal threat. And he's been superb since he's basically burst into the team. So, I think they're one of the best drilled sides in Ligue 1. They're always very organized. The question mark has always been around substitution and the lack of depth. And to be fair, some choices that Paulo Fonseca made a couple of times. I think the 3-3 draw against PFC was symbolic of that. But, I think everybody, club, owners, manager, players, fans, everybody's happy. And when everybody's putting in the same direction, it creates a positive dynamic, and they're benefiting from that. And Enric is just the icing on the cake, really. And, they've had no expectations at the start of the season. We'll see how they manage that, because right now, they're getting to the Champions League spots, and Marseille are vulnerable. So a top 3 finish could be possible. We saw Lille being a little bit vulnerable, and Rennes we'll figure out what Rennes is at one point. So, Lyon, I think there's definitely an opening. There's an opportunity, and Endrick signing has lifted everyone even more than they were towards the end of the 2025 year.
Guys, look at this stat. You're all watching our content. That's great, but you've got to hit the subscribe button. Do it now. Yep, Rennes dropped a couple of points. They were at home against Le Havre, could only draw 1-1, so a decent point for Didier Digard's team. The two big winners at the weekend, Toulouse, they defeated Nice 5-1 in what was a very impressive performance. Worrying, of course, for Nice, who remain very much in danger as far as the relegation battle is concerned. They look to be tightening up under Claude Puel, but a 5-1 loss in southwest France. The other big winner, Marseille, defeating Angers 5-2, and an opportunity for me to correct what I said early in the podcast when I said that Mason Greenwood scored against Toulouse. Of course, I meant that he scored against Angers. Marseille did produce some very good football, and it was an absolutely emphatic victory. Amine Gouiri central to it as well. A goal for Timothy Weah. So, that was certainly a good result for Marseille. I think they got 14 goals now in their last 2 games because they put 9 past Bayeux in the cup. Quick word on Strasbourg, guys. Tom, it's been a good start for Gary O'Neill, the man who came in to replace Liam Rossigna. I was a bit harsh. I think a couple of weeks ago I said I'm sure Gary O'Neill can't even pronounce Avranches. Well, he took Strasbourg to Avranches. Did they put 6 goals past them? I think they did. And a 2-1 win. I think this is probably even more important because it was the local derby against Metz, his Ligue 1 debut at the Menno. So far, he's taking to life pretty well. The team seems to be responding to it.
Yeah, you can't do much better for your first Ligue 1 game than a win in the derby. As much as Metz are struggling this season, it's still a really important game in that part of the world. We're getting a sense of how Gary O'Neill is going to lead Strasbourg into the post-Liam Rossigna era. There's already been a change of system. We know how tightly wedded Rossigna was to playing with a back 3. Gary O'Neill has gone for a back 4. It feels like the man-to-man marking all over the pitch has been dialed down a little bit. He switched Diego Moreira to the right-hand side, and Moreira scored the opening goal. Really nicely taken goal, teed up by Julio Enciso. And then Martial Godot very emphatically heading in the winner after giving away the penalty that had allowed Metz to equalise. And there was a nice comment from O'Neill after the game, and he was talking about the sort of the communion that you get between supporters and players after matches in France. And he said, well, we don't really do that in England, and it's true. It's not really part of English football traditions. So yeah, you get the sense that he's starting to enjoy himself.
Yeah, so far so good for Gary O'Neill at Strasbourg. The only game that I haven't mentioned, Paris FC, they actually got a really important victory. Their first win in over 2 months. They won away to Nantes. Now, Nantes have gone 140 days without winning at the Bourgeois. It's a difficult period for the Canaries, who remain third from bottom. Luca Colaiocco scored the winning goal for Paris FC on his Ligue 1 debut. Ilan Cabal was excellent again. Cabal scored a great opening goal and had a hand in Colaiocco's winner as well. So that concludes today's podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Tom and Baptiste for your expert analysis. Baptiste, is there anything that you would like to plug before you go, or any social media you'd like our listeners to tune into?
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter, at Le Classic Pod, and we're on Spotify and all those channels. So look out for us. We've just completed our episode on sort of a review of the first half of the season in Ligue 1, and we'll obviously be releasing some more episodes. And it's World Cup year, so look out for. We'll be watching a couple of old school France World Cup games and reminiscing. So look out for that.
Yes, Le Classique Pod, if you want to hear Baptiste's soothing voice, just telling you all about the best league in Europe. Tom, anything you'd like to promote?
So I wrote a piece about PSG for The Athletic. That went up this morning, and there'll be a piece up tomorrow about Kylian Mbappe's time at Monaco in anticipation of Real Madrid versus Monaco on Tuesday night. And just to add, if you've got a spare 15 seconds in your day, I'd recommend checking out the goal that Mathis Ablin scored for Nantes against Paris FC, because it is an absolute banger, and we haven't mentioned it.
It is. Fair play, Tom. And I will be reading your article, because I loved watching Kylian Mbappe at Monaco, and I loved reading Leonardo Jardim, who said maybe 2 years ago, Jardim was asked about Mbappe, saying, is he getting better and better? And he said Mbappe was at his best when he was at Monaco. And I thought it was just quite cheeky. He said it with a smile, but there's a bit of, not truth in it, but there was something very sort of carefree, and he was a much sort of slimmer, quicker, or maybe. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
Don't say slimmer, man.
No, but less muscular. I mean, I'm not saying he's overweight, but Tom,
got you.
I look forward to reading your article. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back with another edition of the French Football Show next week. Until then, bye-bye.